¿Qué tal, mi gente? We are back here on LatiNation Football Club, and we are excited because there are so many important things to talk about. I'm here with Nik Z, El Chiva Mayor, and my friends, I'm ecstatic because my Pumitas are in the final. And you might ask why I'm not wearing a Pumas jersey, because I don't want to jinx it. But next week, either way, I'll be repping the colors of La Universidad that with Efraín Juárez has finally come back to la gran final with stand-up players. Liga MX,
so
the
you're
last
okay
week
with
of the tournament.
jinxing Arsenal, though?
No, that's why I'm
Because
wearing
they
a
got-
champion. I'm wearing a champion jersey. 22 years took Arsenal to win. So I'm hoping that 15 years after the last championship, Pumas comes back. But first, let's commiserate with Chiva, because we had the perfect final lined up y el Cruz Azul te la robó, mi queridísimo Chiva.
Ay, gracias, árbitro. Thank you. El Rev Ramos, by the way. I mean, it's football. Anything can happen. Unfortunately, in Liga MX, we know that there's certain things that don't go your way. But I'm happy, look, repping mis Chivas siempre hasta la muerte. I was proud and happy to be at the Estadio Jalisco. What an amazing atmosphere. Nada que reclamarle al equipo, la verdad.
That's right. The Chivas had one of the best tournaments, second place in the standings, pretty much tied with Pumas in most of the stats, Nick. What was your assessment of the Clausura tournament, the narrative that you really grasped your attention, and what team really disappointed you?
Okay, well, Americanista over here, so that goes without saying. Duh, die hard till I die. What I see when I look at is something very interesting. I see this in the context of the specific year we're in. You cannot take this season and not include that we're seeing end of a season, which is obviously shortened because of the World Cup. That helped your Pumitas, I think. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm looking at it in the context of that. And I'm seeing how important this is to have in the finals now a Mexico City Clásico-esque match in the run-up to a World Cup, obviously co-hosted by Mexico, in a city which has the opportunity to be the emotional center of this World Cup, because obviously everything's going on in the U.S. I mean, that goes without saying, internationally, politically, all of that. We don't need to get into it, but Mexico City as a city, this means a lot. And I see that in the final, and that's how this season kind of stands out for me. America didn't step up for the city, but the two other squads did. And that's how I see this. I see it in that
I like the Mexico City como un proud Chilango. I can recognize that narrative, Nick. Chiva,
Anything to add?
Chilango power in the final.
Yes.
Chilango power.
Another thing to add to what you're saying, it's a great point, is the fact that we have two Mexican coaches in the final, young Mexican coaches. Joel Wiki, ¿cómo le dices, Efraín?
Efraín,
Ancelotti Juárez.
Aristóteles Juárez o Ancelotti Juárez, depende de qué tan filosófico he gets, you know?
He's more of a Simeone, if you ask me. You know why?
Yes.
Because Pumas is now, I would say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you're Mr. Pumas over here, but there's an emotional tie to the coach. There's a certain identity with Pumas, like there is with Atlético de Madrid.
Let me break La Garra for you. Let me break down La Garra for you guys. The reality is, when a coach that had gone through the cantera, this is the academy of Pumas, all of his life, represented Pumas to the highest level. Efraín Juárez is a legend of the club as a player. He had a little dark spot by playing with America for a tournament, but we're gonna, forgive him if he gets this championship. But also, little thing that is known about this coach, he has been traveling the world, working with some of the best coaches. He was at championships in Seattle. He was at championships in Vancouver. He went to Colombia. In 2 tournaments, he won La Copa y La Liga. He comes to Mexico, and in 2 tournaments, he gets Pumas in the final. So we are seeing a coach that, although he is grandiose, he is a person that likes the drama, he likes the attention, he has great sound bites, he has some of the most entertaining press conferences, and even the gestures that some people have recriminated him as vulgar, it's part of this identity, this fight, and the players are latching onto this spirit, and they respect him because he has walked the walk. He has been there in Pumas, and he has been able to capture and recreate the magic of a championship team. I'm so excited as a Puma fan. I was there when they became champions over Chivas, no pun intended. But the reality is that it's very important for Mexico that Chivas and Pumas are some of the best teams. Like what we see right now is we see Pachuca, Pumas, and Chivas. Three of the most important producers of players for the Mexican team in the last 25, 40 years are in the top three, and that's very important. Cruz Azul, on the other hand, for me, is the example of a team that is put a billetazos, right? They have the money to bring some of the best players. They have probably the best right back on the league, some of the best creators in the league with Palavecino, some of the best forwards in the league, pero la van a Cruz Azulear, my friends.
Maybe, maybe not. Going back to my original point, and I don't say this to knock you, it's just true. They have had a harder path in the playoffs just because they were lower seeded. This was a different kind of format, right? It really mattered where you ended the season strong. Not to take away anything from Pumas because they ended the season in first place. That in itself is a feat. But has Pumas relied on an easier path in the playoffs? Are they going to get hit hard? Are they going to be caught flat-footed? That's the question. This is a Cruz Azul with a much deeper squad, if you ask me. They have a stronger bench. Pumas has looked tired. They looked very tired against America. That worries me if we're looking at
and
Pumas.
They don't have a player that comes off the bench to change the narrative, right? Like they have, we saw it on this last game with Pachuca. Efrain Juarez didn't do any substitution till very, very late in the game because, to be honest, that 11 is the best 11 that we have right now, and it might be enough.
Now, just to be fair, Pumas did not have an easy path. I think the fact they face America, their number one Coco, I mentioned it here.
Yep.
If they beat America, if they mentally beat America, because you saw it at the games, they were winning at 3 goals. The minute America scored a goal on them, the mentality, they collapsed. They went afraid again of America because they always lose against America. Not no more.
Yeah, but the way that they finished, they were able to go on aggregate. They were able to go on and progress much easier on aggregate because of how they were seeded.
Without a doubt, I think that was.
I'm not saying easy. I'm just saying easier than Cruz Azul.
But I think it serves the purpose exactly of why this rule was created.
Right.
We are trying to incentivize teams to fight for that top spot during the season because Liga MX is traditional that teams play really poorly, like Tigres. Tigres had a terrible season, but they'll be back here in LatiNation next season, so don't you worry, they'll be better. But they had a terrible season, and the last 5 match days, they were able to bring it back and got a place into the Liguilla. Clearly, the colors of the team shone when it needed. They couldn't make it up with Chivas. But we need this rule because then the tournament actually matters because it could get you to a final, like you said, through 2 different ties.
I want to bring it back to what Marcelino was saying about the importance of Chivas and Pumas being at the top of the league. Pumas first place, Chivas in second place. The national team, they tend to do really good when Chivas and Pumas provide teams to the national team. We have eight players from Chivas now called for the U.S. national team, 5 of them securing their spot in the World Cup. And then from Pumas, La Cantera, we have a lot of Cantera playing at the final for the Mexican League. You have in Chivas the Sub-20, they just beat America and the championship. So seeing this for La Liga MX, for El Tricolor, for the future of Mexico, I think it's something very important, something that we have not seen in the past 5 years. And the fact that Chivas, Pumas, Pachuca, that is another team that brings out great players, has a really good cantera, a lot of young players playing on their first squad. I think it gives me hope to the future of our national team.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
And I just want to say that, guys, if you're watching and you want to always obviously be up to date with everything on Liga MX, especially this final. It's happening. We're always news. Check us out on Instagram because we're always dropping stuff to keep you updated at all times. You can't wait for our 1 weekly show here every week. You got to stay updated. So check us out on Instagram.
LatiNation FC on Instagram, my friends. Go and follow us. You'll find so much more than the really good stuff that we get here. Now, Chiva, who are the key players for this final? From Cruz Azul, who do you think are the heroes that might come and actually make a difference and might give Cruz Azul that edge?
I mean, against Pumas, I think Charlie Rodriguez can make a huge difference in the midfield. And for Pumas, la experiencia de Keylor Navas is what's going to give them the trophy.
That's right, Chiva. And with that, it's time to go on a break, my friends. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, Más Futbol, we're going to talk about the Liga MX Femenil champions, many other champions in Europe, and so much more right here on LatiNation Football Club.
Now now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
¿Qué tal, mi gente? We are back at LatiNation Football Club headquarters, my friends, and we're going to talk about MLS. I'm here with El Compa Nik, El Chiva Mayor, and we're going to break down the performance of our teams with songs. I'm going to start with LAFC, and I'm free falling. That's right, Chiva. We are falling like crazy, Nik. No sé qué pasó. The floor was pulled off, and now we are in 7th place, almost out of the playoff contention. Chiva, what is happening with LAFC? We thought that it was a fluke. We were hoping that Marc Dos Santos was the new messiah that would take us out of this wishy-washy rhythm that we played really, really well for 5 games, and then we come into terrible collapses like this. 4 games in a row, losing with, I'm going to give it, you know, a saving grace. This last game, we did saw some response from LAFC. They were playing against Nashville, the strongest team on the East. So I'm going to say there's no reason to really, really throw the baby with the water right now. But, Chiva, break it down for us. What's happening with LAFC?
I mean, it's happening that they have played too many games. No excuses because Nashville wasn't the same. And, they play the same games as LAFC. What I'm seeing with LAFC is the lack of defense. I think we're missing defenders. And in the midfield, we don't have Tillman has to, go to the bench. Martinez has to play some more minutes. It's easy to criticize right now when things are going wrong. Es temprano, hermano. This is the beginning of the season. We have this huge break coming up after the game versus Seattle. And I know for a fact that that everything's gonna change and that we're gonna start doing better. Now with Marc Dos Santos, I think he's feeling the pressure, even though it's been not too many games that he has been a coach for LAFC. He's feeling the pressure because he needs to play the LAFC style, like I always mentioned, which is always attacking. And I think on his head is playing with him. So he needs to find a balance. One thing that I see with LAFC that nobody's talking about is the fact that they stopped bringing players from Latin America. We're not seeing players from Latin America like before. We had a lot of them, and right now they're only focusing on bringing players from Europe and no Latinos.
No Latinos, and there's a disconnection with the team. But now let's talk about Galaxy, the other side of the town, because they're moving up.
Moving on
My
up.
friend. 2 wins in a row, Nik. How does it feel to be back in the winning column?
Wow.
After a long time.
It feels good. It feels good to not be at least at the bottom, which is where we were last season. Look, we've been consistently, though, a 10th place team this whole season. We're now in 9th. Woohoo. Big thing. It's still early on. It's all good. But what I've seen from Galaxy is consistency from a single player. We haven't had that. We've obviously been missing Puig from injury. And since then, we haven't had a solid player to give us goals. Peck, the Brazilian for us, has stepped up 2 games in a row, scoring, getting on the board. Usually it's one day it's Peck that saves our behinds, then one day Paintsel saves our behinds, but it's consistently been Peck, and we're starting to flow right now. So it's feeling good. We're still in the knockout area. We want to get in that 7th, 6th, 5th spot. It's still early, but we have to be consistent. I'm not too hopeful just because how things have been going, but it's a good sign.
Let me sing your praises a little bit, Nick, because wasn't any team that you guys beat.
Right.
You went to Seattle and beat Seattle. This is almost like a clásico for MLS. These are some of the most important teams that are in the league. And the fact that Galaxy is being able to recover that ability to go and show their potential in a place like Seattle, it's important.
It is indeed. And you guys held your own against Nashville as well. I know it was a loss at the end of the day, but what was it, 3 goals up against them? You guys put 3 goals?
3 bangers of a goal.
3 bangers of a goal, yeah.
From Harry Mokhtar, all of them. Hat trick from 3 direct kicks. 3 massive goals that Harry Mokhtar.
Without Hugo Lloris.
Without Hugo Lloris, that's right. But Chiva, let's talk about some other teams because there's something happening in Miami. As they try to become an important team in the East, as they try to become invincible at their new stadium, there's a broken relationship between La Barra y los jugadores. Chiva, I know that you know very, very well the importance of having La Barra, el aficionado number 12, connected with the players. And unfortunately, Miami does not feel that way. We saw the La Barra cantando, por favor. Es más, Chiva, te la dejo.
Yeah, I mean, shame on you, Messi, De Paul, and Suarez for walking away without recognizing your fans. What the fans wanted, what the fans needed, and that's something that has happened with the LAFC before. Me in particular had an argument with a player because of this reason. When you're there as a fan, all you want is for the players to recognize what you're doing, which is supporting, regardless of the score, because we're there no matter what. Even if we win or lose, we're always chanting, singing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's the same thing that the people from Miami, La Familia, Vice City, all of them, that's what they wanted from the players. And they went on a strike. You can call it 85 minutes of silence, and then at the 85th minute, they started singing this song that has no offensive language at all. They were only asking their players to respect the hinchada and say hi to them, and it doesn't cost them anything. Basically, that's what the chant said.
And Chiva, what was the response of the players at this request from the fans?
Honestly, it's sad to see a player like Messi that thinks that, they cannot tell him anything. He turns around and he tells them, la gente de Argentina sabe qué significa esto. So it's sad to see something like that from a player like Messi. Around the Argentinian football world, they're criticizing the Miami fans. They're saying that they're nobody only because they're from an MLS team when at the end of the day, they're there to support their players. And the players, instead of, for example, Berterame, went out and said, you know what, we apologize with the fans, they're right. We should at least recognize what they're trying to do for us.
Why do you guys love to hate on Miami so much? Why?
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why also, because if you bring a player like Messi, the standard is different.
Yeah.
You cannot bring Messi and let him become Aitor Cantona from Club de Cuervos. You cannot bring a player of that caliber to a league and have him act like he's beyond everything, beyond the fans, beyond the refs, beyond the rules. That's not what he came for. He is the standard bearer for MLS. He has to behave in an exemplary way. And the relationship, that's the difference between MLS and all of the other leagues. That's the reason why these players come to the MLS, because their kids can sit on the sidelines, because their families can watch on the front row. And the reason why is because of the respectful relationship there is with stars and the fans.
I agree. I do think you guys are a little bit harsh on them because it's Miami. But I will say this. You talked, Chiva, about LAFC maybe prioritizing European players from across the pond and not players here, in Latin America specifically. Miami, and this is connected to Galaxy, is bringing Casemiro now, most likely after the World Cup. Discovery rights from Galaxy, whatever that means. That's a uniquely MLS thing. I don't actually even know what the heck discovery rights are for. I don't know why that's there. But Casemiro coming in, another Brazilian, another South American, cementing Miami as this strong South American foothold. I think it's going to be pretty awesome to watch. Besides all the drama that you guys like to dive into, the cheese-mail, all of that. I'm talking about the football itself.
I think Miami is creating something important, and that's why we need to keep them at the highest standard possible, because they will be measured as the standard bearer for MLS. But that's all we have for now, my friends. We have to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Liga MX Femenil, NWSL y más fútbol. We'll be right back. ¿Qué tal, mi gente? We are back here y cambio en la alineación. Entra el Gen Z Squad, salen los Onks, because it's time to talk about Liga MX Femenil. Y tengo que reconocerlo, my friends. Camila Ortiz is officially la bruja de LatiNation, because she was keen on her vision. Camila, there's a new champion in Liga MX Femenil. You called it. Break it down for us.
America is officially the champion of Liga MX Femenil, and I have to say, I called it. I knew this was going to happen since the last championship, the final game against Tigres, and hey, I was right. This is breaking America's streak of getting to 4 championships and losing them. So the losing streak is done. They are officially the champions.
That's right. America proven to be the best team of the competition throughout the whole season. They were at the top of the standings. They showed the best style of play, and they showed that at the end of the day, teams with the most money like Tigres and Monterrey and America, they make a difference, although they were big surprises throughout the season, como Juárez with a modest, very modest team, and they were able to continue to be a pain in the side for most of these big teams. Alex Crespo, cuéntame, how disappointed you are de nuestras Amazonas, las Tigresas, Tigres de la Universidad, that they couldn't really pull together a follow-up to their championship last season?
I mean, really, I just don't know what happened, because they were doing so well last season, and then this season they just were off to a super rocky start. They weren't able to get that momentum back into it. We really had hope. They made it into the playoffs and everything, and then, yeah. But I'm surprised that, Cami from the get-go has been saying that America's going to win, and they did. We did have a little bit of a scare in that first game with them losing 1-0, but then ultimately they said, aquí estamos, 3-0, boom.
El Norte continues to be a reference for Mexican football. Monterrey was the second place in the competition, showing que la Sultana del Norte continues to be one of the strongest plazas for Mexican soccer in the women's side. Camila, also, there were some impressive numbers behind the final, proving the popularity of women football in Mexico. Break down for us what happened, how many people watched this final, and why does it matter?
Absolutely. Just in the stadium alone, over 26,000 people were in attendance watching the game live. Just watching it from the TV, you could feel the energy from the fans of America in that last final, really making a difference. And then on Univision, we saw 6.8 million people tuning in to check in.
That's impressive numbers, my friend. That are a statement of the continuing, growing interest in mujeres and their football, porque la verdad es que they play really well. And one thing that I really like to emphasize and tell everybody is that the way they fight for the ball, the intensity, and the lack of flopping is something that is worth watching week after week. For real, they play at a different pace. I have been watching closely for now 2 years, and I can say confidently that the girls really know how to play. They play for the ball with such a passion that sometimes is missing in some of the games in the men's side. Now, Cami, what is next for Liga MX Femenil? I know we'll be back here on LatiNation. We'll have the Tigres and Juárez home games all season long. But in the meantime, what is happening on Liga MX?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're seeing a lot more parity within the league, right? This was, I believe, the 3rd title for America. So this is a big win for them. Monterrey, unfortunately, they were the favorite, especially going into the second leg. They won early on, and they're the 2nd most winningest league team in the entire league, and they just weren't able to perform. So in my opinion, what I think we're going to see is some of those mid-table teams really start to make a push for the top. We're seeing teams like Tigres, although they barely made it into the playoffs, just not able to perform, and teams like Juárez, on the other hand, really making a name for themselves. So what I'm hoping to see is similar to the NWSL, some more parity, some more competition as the league continues to grow and as more money is ultimately being funded for these clubs.
Now, Alex, we've been talking about Liga MX Femenil all year long. Who are the players that you really, like watching this season, the highlight and the heroes of the Clausura tournament?
I mean, bringing it back to the game, I think we have to talk about players like Irene Guerrero, Nik Z, who were able to score in this game and, ultimately come out with the win. I think that they were very fun to watch throughout the season, but I also like players like Charlene Corral, who were just, she was popping off. And that's the thing about Liga MX Femenil, is that we I mean, I think like society isn't expecting the level to be there, but these goals are crazy, and people are finally, you know, tuning in, and we're gonna see a lot of growth in this league.
That is right. Camila, before we go, it's almost time to go on a break. Who was your MVP of the tournament?
This is a really hard question for me. I think it has to be Scarlett Cambero. She put the final penalty in for America, really sealing the deal. And I think for me, that's the MVP. A lot of pressure on her in that moment, right? Because it still would have been 2-1 in the global score, but she put that last goal in and made her team ultimately the champion.
It is time to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk about European football. That's right. So many new champions. We'll be right back on LatiNation Football Club. And we are back, my friends. This is LatiNation Football Club. Cambiamos de alineación. The ONC squad is back because we have to talk about important story. One of them, Arsenal, champions, winners of the Premier League for the first time in 22 years, my friends. That's right. The Gunners finally shed the label of butlers, como le dicen los ingleses, after 3 consecutive seasons, finishing in second place. Arteta's team finally is able to raise the trophy, and it might be 2 because they will be playing the final for the Champions League in a couple of weeks. My friends, Nik, you are the European guru. How important it was for Arsenal to break the curse and finally become champion again after 22 years.
Thank you for calling me a guru. I love that title. It's obviously huge in the context, first of all, we'll start here in the context of the Champions League. You want to come into a Champions League match as your league winner, right? I mean, that's just going to give you an extra pep in your step. That's going to really help you out there. Gives you a little bit more momentum. On the side of the league, they've played a fantastic league, and this is just showing that a squad can just be absolutely untouchable in their own style of play. Arsenal's playing a very specific, tactical, more defensive, almost surgical style of play that's proven very effective in the EPL and on the European broader stage, and that is extremely important, strategically speaking.
It proves the point that you can win a championship with 1-0s and draws.
Yes.
A very defensive style of play, my friends. Chiva, now, let's talk about the other side of the equation. Manchester City had the opportunity to prolong this fight, but Pep Guardiola came out saying, like, this is my last tournament with the team, and that might have taken a little bit of wind under their wings. Chiva, do you think it was a mistake, or it was just the completion of a cycle for Pep Guardiola?
I mean, I think it was revenge. You know, he knew he was leaving, and he to me, I wouldn't say it until the end of the season because they were still fighting for the championship. I think that kind of affected the way the team played. But, you know, it's Pep Guardiola. He won a lot for Manchester City. I'm so happy that Arsenal is the champion. It took them 23 years. It's not that bad. Atlas took him like 75. So, I mean, you know, but yeah, it's good to see Arsenal winning a championship. That's what I love from EPL, that everybody can you know, is right there trying to win a championship. It's not just one team like in England, like in Bundesliga or Francia. Speaking of EPL, I'm happy and nervous about West Ham. West Ham and Tottenham are fighting for the last spot in La Primera División, and you cannot miss the games on the weekend. It's going to be crazy.
Those are the most important games this weekend to watch. Now, let's talk about the 5 European spots that will be going to Champions League, because this tournament, English teams pretty much dominated the group stage and much of the competition. And now we have, obviously, Arsenal, Manchester City, but Manchester United back to European football. Los miércoles de Champions back on the Reds. And also completing those 5, Aston Villa and surprisingly Liverpool in 5th place. Saludos a Luis. They barely made it to Champions League, which have been a terrible, terrible failure if they didn't access to that competition. But do we see the 5 strongest teams, or we just got lucky to see Manchester United just sneak in there?
No, I think Manchester United has been doing a great job with Casemiro leading the league, even though he's leaving already. But it's good to see Manchester United finally waking up after, you know, all these changes with coaches. I'm a Manchester United fan, believe it or not, and I'm so happy. And it's not a coincidence. They've been working on it for the past several seasons.
Another surprise that you detected throughout the championship, my good friend Nick?
Yeah, I'm surprised to see where Chelsea ended up, way down at the bottom. I mean, these are the world champions, right? So things change quickly in football. If we're talking about Champions League again, these 5 squads that are going to be going are probably going to do very well in the Champions Leagues. English teams have been doing amazing. They've been dominating, you could say, in UEFA. So this is going to be it. I mean, they are taking the spot of the rich, wealthy Super League spot that Spain has held for so long on the European stage. It's starting to, that tide is starting to change, and it's leaning towards more England.
Now, speaking of European stages, La Europa final, you know, Aston Villa is in La Europa final.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting to have those 5 teams on the top making the Champions League this time. And I'm only excited for the future for Aston Villa and Manchester United. Let's see if Manchester United is going to be capable of bringing some good players to take them back to where they belong.
Now, let's move on to Spain. There's some storylines that I want to touch upon, and one of them is Villarreal. Villarreal is a team that used to be a darling of the Spanish league in the 90s with El Dragón Cañizares in the door and other, you know, players like Aymar. But now we see that they're back in 3rd place. Nick, is this the moment for La Liga to have different top players and top teams in the championship?
I'm going to be completely honest. I think that La Liga is very similar to what you mentioned, like Bundesliga, where we're going to see Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico de Madrid
maybe
now, dominating probably for the foreseeable future. Are we going to see teams rising up closer to that, like Villarreal? That's awesome to see. We love cool storylines. We love underdogs. But do I see anyone contending for those top spots against those 3 squads? Right now, I don't see Villarreal or Mallorca making this huge jump, and like we're seeing in the EPL, like with Bournemouth or something. I don't see that happening.
I want to talk about one team that is close to my heart. Rayo Vallecano finished in 8th of the standings, but right now they are trying to make history. This is one of the most modest budgets in the Spanish league. For those of you that might not know, Rayo Vallecano is the team that opened the doors for Hugo Sanchez to migrate to Spain, and that's where his story began. He was a Pichichi winner with one of the poorest teams. The stadium of Rayo Vallecano is so small compared to Real Madrid that it's a joke. Yet, they're about to make history competing on the finals of the Conference League and fighting for another spot in European football next season. How lovely is to see these stories of pure passion, of players that go for kebabs right after the game in the local spot, and they are friends with the community. Chiva, we're losing that, but here it is on European soccer.
I love to see Rayo Vallecano. I was just talking to Nik on the break that we have to go to a Rayo Vallecano game whenever he goes to Spain. Take me con el mochilazo. We have Rayo Vallecano right now playing the Conference League final versus Crystal Palace. That tells you, of the importance of the tournament that they have done. I want to talk a little bit about Sevilla. Sevilla se salvó. Otro de los equipos históricos de la Liga Española. They just secured their staying in La Liga for one more season. They were very close to be relegated, and I'm happy to see teams like Sevilla not being relegated. And this is what I love about the European leagues, the fact that they have relegation, something that we have to have in MLS and in Liga MX because it gives us a different flavor y los jugadores entregan todavía más de lo que tienen que entregar.
Sevilla, a team that has recently been purchased, but no other than Sergio Ramos, Real Madrid legend and Spain World Cup winner. He's going to bring a new money, new energy, and a new future for the team that deserves to be in the first tier. Now, Nik, let's go to Italy, where we saw one team and one team only throughout the season, and that was Inter, clearing the championship with 13 points ahead of the competition. What's up?
I was really looking forward to seeing another Napoli fireworks show. I mean, you guys remember those images from last year, right? We didn't get that, but I think Inter Milan definitely deserved it. I'm sad in general that Serie A has become an afterthought in European football. We talk about EPL, we talk about Spain quite a bit. Serie A used to be the top, or at least contending with La Liga. Not the case anymore. I think that's also why we see a lot of problems with the national team for young Italian players playing on Juve, playing for Roma. Used to be as good as it gets. That's what you fight for, that's what you live for. That's no longer the case. The quality of play has gone down, the quality of players, the type of magnitude of players that you have playing in the league has gone down. Juve's best players are all from the US, like that tells you something right there. But yeah, I mean, it's sad to see, but yes, focusing on Inter, I don't want to take this away from them. They've played absolutely amazing. They've been great on the European stage as well in the last few years, and they definitely deserved it. Lautaro Martinez, absolutely amazing for Inter, so yeah.
That's right, Nik, and we will see Lautaro in the World Cup in a couple of weeks, my friend. But we have to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Mass Football National Women's Soccer League y what's trending on the internet right here on LatiNation Football Club.
We have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, Only on SportsGrid.
Que tranza, mi gente bonita, gente agradable, gente de fútbol. We are back here on LatiNation Football Club. No estoy con Nik Z, no estoy con el Chiva Mayor. I'm with the Gen Z squad. That's right, my friends. Because it's time to talk about the National Women's Soccer League, one of my favorite tournaments, and one that is throwing so many surprises because different teams are coming up to the top and the classic juggernauts of the league are faltering. And that's why I have Camila, the expert of National Women's Soccer League, to break it all down. Camila, I saw ACFC and Portland this weekend. What a game, showing the level of the league. Break down for us this last match day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have to start off with the ACFC game. I think this was actually a pretty strong game for ACFC. Their keeper especially was a standout player for me. She made I think 4 incredible saves that should have been goals, so props to her for keeping the 0-0. But another team that I really want to highlight, I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch, San Diego versus Washington Spirit.
Oof.
San Diego was able to break Washington Spirit's 8-game streak, winning 2-1 with the last-minute goal. This was an incredible game to see, even though Washington Spirit held 60% of the possession, San Diego Wave was still able to finish.
San Diego having a great season, Alex. We've seen them from the beginning of this tournament really improving from last year, even though they have impressive players leaving the team.
Yep.
Now, what are the things that you really, really appreciated this weekend from the league?
I mean, I am really appreciating the uprise of Denver Summit because this is a team that, they just got welcomed into the league and they are taking down some giants. I mean, we saw a 3-1 victory against Orlando, Marta's team, who she got subbed in the 46th minute, which I think, I don't know if that's good or bad because maybe you need to have her more or maybe you need to bring her in later. I really don't know, but I'm loving to see that Denver is in the playoffs. And, the other team that I want to talk about is Boston. It was a little bit of a rough weekend, but, it's still early on in the season. All these teams are very, minimal points away from each other.
Speaking of Boston, we have to talk about Bianca St. George's second red card. Another red card for her after a dangerous play.
Boston has a red card every match
Every game in the 42nd minute. This is,
42nd minute,
yes,
first half.
First half, red card. This seems like to be a pattern with, Boston, but we'll see if they can figure it out.
As a player, I know that you've been in this situation. Do you feel like it's a lack of fitness or a lack of a cohesive idea where it's having these players come out late to the challenges, maybe their physical stamina is not quite there and you seem to be late to the tackle? What is happening?
Well, I think red cards always come from a state of desperation, right? It's when you're desperate, you don't know what else to do. So I think either the team defensively is just not working as a unit, and so these players feel like they're individuals and they have to make these crazy plays. That's the only thing for me. At that level in the NWSL, that would be an excuse or a reason.
Now, let's talk about another big team in this competition, and that's Kansas City, that is finally back to the winning games, to the winning ways, Camila. They were down and, down ugly in this season, but they were able to put 3-0 up on Houston Dash, which is a good team this season. Cami, is this the return of Kansas to the winning ways?
I mean, listen, it could be. I kind of feel like they're slowly getting their momentum back, but they have a couple good matches this weekend. So I think that will be a really good test for them.
That's right. Now, Alex, another team that we follow here and that we really like, it was the Utah Royals. They are really a surprise of this tournament. They are not one of those teams, it's not a franchise that has a lot of following, but Utah is an important franchise for sports. They have great professional teams, and now it seems like they also have a winning team on the Royals.
I mean, this is an insane stat to say. 536 minutes, being scoreless minutes. I mean, this is ridiculous.
And 5 clean sheets.
And 5 clean sheets. This is a team that, they are showing that they're working together and keeping that rhythm going. I mean, 8 games unbeaten. This is insane. I mean, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the Utah Royals.
Cami, is there any other teams with crazy unbeaten runs right now on NWSL? I think that we have also Seattle Reign that is playing at a really high level. Give us some stats.
Yeah, absolutely. They have had 5 straight shutouts since March. It seems like a lot of teams are really getting, strong in the defense and they're not letting a lot of goals through. But another player and fun, information that happened from the weekend is Mallory Swanson, an icon from the United States women's national team, finally coming back after maternity leave for Chicago Stars. She has not played an NWSL game since November of 2024, so we are so happy to have her back in the league, and I'm so excited to see what she can do.
The league is soon going to come into a hiatus for the World Cup, so these last games are very, very important to set yourself in a good position for the second half of the tournament. Now, who are some of the players to watch, Cami, for the remaining of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a game to watch and a player to watch. ACFC versus Kansas City. This is going to be a great test for both of these teams. They're finally kind of building that momentum, and we have no other than Chawinga coming for Kansas City. She is one of the top players right now. She scored 5 goals in the past 2 games. She had a brace last weekend and a hat trick this weekend. It's going to be pretty hard for ACFC to stop her.
This is billed as the battle of the clubs because ACFC is having an initiative where they're bringing a bunch of local youth clubs to the stadium, and they will be wearing their jerseys. It's going to be a great, game, and the atmosphere is going to be amazing. Now, Alex, what do you plan to watch this weekend?
I mean, I'm definitely going to be watching San Diego versus Orlando because we are going to see Banda, who has been going crazy.
Top goal scorer,
going against the Giants, San Diego. I honestly think that it's going to go in San Diego's way.
Ooh, really?
No pun intended. But yeah, we'll see if Orlando can bring it back up, and maybe Marta makes a difference. Who knows?
Marta has to make a difference because she is getting ready for the World Cup that is going to happen in Brazil next summer, and there's going to be a big preview because the U.S. is playing versus Brazil in June 2 times in a row. Camila, these are going to be a series of important games for the U.S. national team and for Brazil to bring awareness for the World Cup. Now we have the Men's World Cup this summer, but next summer, las mujeres se van a rifar, and for me, it's going to be one of the best tournaments in the history of the game.
España lo gana.
Ooh, they're definitely a contender, but I think that's so, so many women teams are doing really, really well. You have Japan, who's always a dark horse, so I think it's going to be a really exciting, tournament, and I'm very excited.
So much football que nos va a caer en el verano, all the way, a full calendar year of amazing world-class football, because that next year, all of these female national teams are going to be playing some of the best preparation games and some qualifiers still before the World Cup, my friends. Now, we have to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with what's trending so you know what the internet is caring about in el mundo del fútbol. Don't go anywhere. This is LatiNation Football Club. And we are back, my friends. This is LatiNation Football Club, and I'm back with the Gen Z squad, and we're going to break down what's trending on the internet, my friends. And the first thing is we are looking, Alex, at what brands are doing and putting together for the World Cup. And what Adidas is doing is blowing my mind. There are going to be some crazy watch parties right here in Los Angeles at the BMO Stadium. Break it down for us, Alex.
I mean, we have been seeing so many activations with these brands go across all the world, but now we are seeing music, football, fashion, all of it come together, and we are seeing this with Adidas, of course. They are doing activations in LA, New York,
Chicago,
Toronto. It's literally all over. So we are excited, first of all, and I can't wait to see and go to these events.
And bringing no other than Peso Pluma. This is going to be so exciting. I think this is obviously the football, the World Cup, but bringing Peso Pluma is going to bring so many more people to celebrate, and I think it's going to be so exciting.
And the setting is la Catedral de Fútbol en Los Ángeles, the BMO Stadium, la Casa de Black and Gold. It's going to be amazing. Check it out. Home of Soccer, sponsored by Adidas. But Alex, there's so much happening right now. What a wild celebration that happened in MLS. One of the craziest moments that says MLS is in the world stage. Alex, ¿qué pasó con ese muchacho de Dallas?
I mean, we saw a very American celebration.
America, but Mexican at the same time.
Sam Sarver going in and scoring a last-minute goal in FC Dallas's game. And then, obviously, the fans were excited, and they start throwing beer. And what does he do? He picks it up and shotguns it, just the frat-style celebration, and, you know, USA.
Something that Messi would never do with his fans.
No, because
which is why he's
he only
getting
drinks
heat
Pepsi.
from them
He
right
only
now.
drinks Pepsi, so he's not
But
allowed
then,
to.
what happened? The next day, he had a full, chest of modelos in his house waiting for him. He had great photos about that on social media. But Alex, surprises in the call-ups for the World Cup because El Príncipe está de regreso. That's right. A World Cup without Neymar is not a World Cup. Alex, how surprising it was to see this call-up.
I mean, this was insane because throughout the games leading up to the World Cup, Neymar wasn't being called up at all. And, everyone was getting scared because they're thinking, is this going to be the first World Cup that we don't see Neymar? We saw him in the 2014 World Cup where he obviously got injured, and that changed the projection of the game. But now he is back. He's in shape. I mean, obviously, he's always getting injured, so you never know.
No shit.
But it's going to be beautiful to see him on the field. We're going to get to see Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar all play their last World Cup. So
Memo Ochoa.
Memo, of course. I honestly wasn't surprised.
No.
I knew Neymar. He had to be called up. It wouldn't be a World Cup.
Now, let me ask you something. How do you feel about the fact that João Pedro, probably the best informed Brazilian striker in the world right now, has been left out of the squad in order to leave Neymar a spot? I
mean, listen, you have to make some sacrifices, right? I think Neymar means so much for the Brazilian national team that it would have been more of a loss for the, team's chemistry, the cohesiveness of the group, and sometimes you need to make those sacrifices.
Now, Alex, what also is trending on the internet right now?
Right now, everyone is talking about Arsenal being the champions of Prem. I mean, I obviously see you guys got the drip, but the real question is, or not the real question, the real thing is how all these Man City fans are suffering because they were very excited to be calling Arsenal the bottlers of the league, and then now Arsenal is clapping back saying they were calling us the bottlers, but now who's holding the bottle?
I saw that.
So, light flex, I just gotta say.
But now, Alex, Real Madrid is always in the headlines. They had a disastrous end of their season, but rumor has it that no other than the Dark Prince of football is coming back. Jose Mourinho might be the next manager. What does he bring into the team?
I mean, we are seeing this top-tier manager come into the team and hopefully, put some order because this team has been in shambles all season long. We have petitions for Mbappé to get kicked off the team, 50 million racking up, so it's insane. I hope that he's going to be the one to, get them up there, but obviously not above Barca because Barca,
I don't know.
Ride or die?
I don't think so. If anybody's going to come and put this team in order, it's Mourinho, 100%. He has the fans backing him. He's one of the most beloved managers, I think ever. So I think they got it all.
Rumor has it that he will come back to Real Madrid, and he wants a legend as his assistant, just like he did the previous time that he was a coach. Now he wants to bring Raúl, the most condecorated forward in the history of Real Madrid, one of the legends, one of the pillars of this team, might be back in the team, Alex. And we have to get ready because this is the end of the show, but also we're so close to the World Cup. Are you guys already have your schedule of all the parties and all the events that we're going to be going?
I mean, yeah, of course. We are definitely going to be watching every game, especially the Mexico one, so you guys can, you know, have a tear in your eye, and I can see that happen. I'm definitely going to be watching every Argentina game, no doubt. So.
And we're going to start with the farewell game for Mexico versus Australia right here in Los Angeles at the Pasadena Bowl. We'll be there covering for you guys. But unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. This was LatiNation Football Club, and we want to thank you, the MVP of our team, for choosing to be here week after week. We'll be right back next week right here on LatiNation Football Club.